Just one last thing. I also want to get your opinion on the main event, right?
Yeah.
Again, is that match a foregone conclusion for
No, no, it's not.
LeBron
It's not.
winning?
Look, here's the deal. Levon has what people would say is Levon has cleaned out the weight class, right? He's cleaned the weight class out of your traditional threats, right? Like
Yeah.
he's pulled Vitali, he's pulled all these traditional arm wrestlers at the top. The two styles that are one-offs that you can't really predict until you see how it goes is Jerry Cadorette being the best flop wrestler on planet Earth, and Michael Topp. So, I mean, I think Levan has already solidified himself as the strongest arm wrestler ever to live. But in order to get to that, whatever GOAT status or whatever it may be, you got to beat those two guys. You got to beat Jerry and you got to beat Michael. Those matches have to happen one way, shape, or form. If Jerry gets a stop, we saw in the Hermes match that the gas tank can be exploited. And I would bet dollars to donuts that Jerry Cadorette has probably one of the best and biggest gas tanks in all of the super heavyweights. Regardless of if he looks like he's dying, he
Yeah,
he can he can pull for days. Him and Michael
he
can pull for
does.
days,
Yeah.
and both of those two guys are not quick winners. They're not quick traditional style pullers. They're going to drag you into deep water and try and drown you. And to me, that is the only potential weakness for Levant. And it really just comes down to with either of those guys, are they able to get a stop? So I don't think it's out of the question that Jerry can get a stop. Now, I'm also not saying that if Jerry gets a stop, that Jerry wins the match. Jerry needs to get a stop and make it long because I do think Levon is such an elite athlete that just getting a stop doesn't mean he wins from there on out. But it does potentially mean that when Levon's gas tank does run out, whenever that does, if that stop happens, that there might be a point of no return if Jerry can get to it.
And he doesn't have to stop it on the first match, right?
Mm-mm,
This is
mm-mm.
a 6 round, 7 rounds, right?
Yeah,
So Jerry just has to wear him down, maybe
yep.
get a stop on the third pole, right?
Here's the other thing. When you start looking at intangibles, Jerry is not a big fan of travel, and Jerry had terrible time in prep, travel, and everything for Hermes. So it was one sided the opposite way. Now we see Jerry driving from Connecticut, or hopping in a flight going to Connecticut to Florida, hanging out nice and comfortable, and just makes Kardeccia look like he has no business being there. If
Yeah.
if Jerry is in that mode of confidence and his energy was so good, he was he I've never seen him so happy. I've never seen him so confident and so happy being in the States. If that plays into his favor and he can dig in and eke out some weird stop, it could get weird. I'm not writing it off. If Levon wins 4-0, it's not going to shock me. But if Jerry gets a stop and the match gets crazy, that won't shock me either.
Yeah, and it will be a great weekend for us, the West.
Yeah, if Jerry like stops the match, like how like Devin stopped round one against Levon,
Right? It's gonna
that
be
was
like
like
that, almost,
it
right?
was like almost good enough. Like
Yeah.
the minute he got that stop, the place erupted. Everyone went crazy. He loses the round. Everyone, me being one of them, still thinks he's going to win. I'm like, he cracked his wrist. His wrist is gone. And then obviously the rounds play on. But for two solid rounds, that place was electric.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think we could see something real similar, and then everybody wins, regardless of the outcome. As long as it's contested, everybody wins.
Right. You think Jerry has more chance of winning when Devin faces Laval?
Weirdly, I do.
Yeah.
Weirdly.
Really?
Yeah, like, and it's based on the move. It's not
Yeah.
based on like, do I think Devin will beat Jerry? I think Devin has to me, it's the move and how is Levon supposed to replicate that in training? How do you replicate the world's best flop wrister? Like, how do you do it? I don't
It's
even
very
know. Like,
hard. If you
how do you
get a
prepare for it?
flop, it's really hard. It's hard to
Everybody
explain
says,
it.
well, Hermes,
Yeah.
Hermes showed the path. Like Hermes did show
Yeah.
fundamentally how you should pull it. But
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that you're going to get the perfect setup every time, or
No.
you're going to win the go and control center. Before you know it, it could get weird real quick. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think, and to be honest, I think when you're doing the Jerry Cadorette and Michael Todd comparison to Devin, I think a Michael Todd in his current form, his King's move might be better than Devin's. It's his original move. So I mean, there's part of me that thinks, well, we saw Devin beat Michael, but who knows? How does that move coming from Michael match up with Levan? I, I don't know. That's why, to me, these are bucket list matches and they have to happen. So the only thing that will throw that off is if Jerry wins. Then it gets real weird. Me and Michael have talked a lot about, like, he's on his path and everything, and he's letting things pan out. But everybody's thinking a couple matches in advance. And we talked about, well, what happens if Jerry wins? Well, I mean, and we're going to have to change that. You know what I mean? We wanted to run that one back, but it's awesome. I think, to be honest, I told Michael, I feel like if Michael wins against Hermes, I think Michael could get the match whether Levan wins or not.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, then what do you want, Mike? Do you want to compete for the East versus West super heavyweight title against Jerry, somebody you've already pulled? Or do you want to go and pull Levan for the number one spot? And then, I don't know. To me, a lot of things, this is going to
Yeah.
make this match here and the Hermes and Michael match are really important for what we see next, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And those all the matches mean something this weekend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we all need to tune in and uh,
Yes.
support the event and see how the world number one arm wrestler wins this weekend. And we hope
Yeah.
that the West does well and just rooting for them. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? It's a good point too. This is the first time Levan's coming to compete in North America. Like,
Yeah.
it's a pretty monumental thing to have the world's number one coming over from Georgia. It's awesome. We have a huge Georgian contingency in the Northeast. So there's like a lot of Georgian pullers that are already up here. So he's going to have like a welcoming party. I'm telling you, there is going to be a lot of Georgian support in that building. It's going to be awesome. And, supporting these events are so important because we are now finally getting that shift to have these events in North America, in the United States and Canada. And the United States and Canada are going to have probably several events coming in the coming year, 2025, as long as everything continues to go well. That means, as pullers and fans and stuff, let's support as much as we possibly can, because this is going to provide the groundwork and the learning process for these future events and getting more of these Europeans over here.
Yeah, speaking of getting the event up there and getting the sport more popular, just I guess just one last thing, the Brian Shaw.
Mm-hmm.
Realistically, how many years you think uh he'll be able to reach the top 10?
It ain't quick, in my opinion.
It's gonna be quick. Yeah.
We're not. So if you gotta, like, here's where it gets tricky, in my opinion. The super heavyweights, the unlimited class, you know, this is the toughest class. Now, people argue like, lighter weights are more skilled, fast, speed, technicality, whatever. But that's the strongest people. Those are the people with the biggest hands, the longest
Yeah.
forearms, the
Yeah.
biggest muscles, the strongest side pressure, and everything else. They have the best everything, pretty much, because they're bigger and stronger than everybody else. So, to me, if a super weirdo was to come into arm wrestling from like the strength world and they were in the lower or middle weight classes, I think that they could progress quicker. I just think there are so many monsters out there. Now, can he get himself to a point of true relevance? Like, meaning being able to compete with guys that are in the top 20 in the world. I think he could do that in a couple of years. Now, there's a big gap between the bottom half of that top 20
Yeah,
and the
that's
top
true.
half,
Yeah.
So to me, once we start talking, I mean, like, if Brian Shaw can crack top 20, top 15 in 2 years, that's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Does he have the tools to be able to do it? Sure. But when you're talking about a guy like this, who's already a high level athlete, who's making money in other sports, how do you justify, like, am I going to go this route? Like, how does that affect me financially? And like we talk about that energy bar and how much energy you can put into something. In order to be the best, top five open weight arm wrestler in the world, it is probably going to take a huge percentage of your focus. And what suffers if you have to do that? So to me, that's the concern. Who knows? I mean, if he has this match and he loves it and falls in love with it, and this just reinvigorates him more, who knows where he'll go? So to me, again, I think it's like so important for so many levels. And I'm so eager to see how the match goes and then how the follow on later on, like the decision of like who's doing what next. That to me is really important.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Brian's already fallen in love with the sport. So just excited for his first match. So yeah.
Yeah, you know what though? It's weird. Isn't it weird? He's kind of like falling in love with the training of
Yeah.
it. But like most of us who fall in love with it, we fall in love with it because of tournaments and practices
Yeah.
and like all these things that he hasn't really experienced. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's a double-edged sword because you look at guys like Larry Wheels, who's kind of faded away now. Larry came out, full of piss and vinegar, and he went right into super matches. They were weirdly picked super matches. They didn't bode well for him. Then he went and did some tournaments. He did everything backwards, and I feel like he wound up getting jaded because of it. So to me, the first year or two of arm wrestling was the most fun I ever had in arm wrestling. So I wonder, does that really have an effect, like being immediately thrown right to the forefront, or
Right.
like, does that affect motivation if things don't go well? Or I guess that's what we'll just have to see how it plays out. I mean, we've seen guys like Leonidas skip that chain too. So
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think facing Eddie as his first match is gonna help him.
yeah,
He's not facing anyone, a world champion. So in the sport. So I think that should help a little bit in terms of that. And yeah, I do think that he will continue on as long as it makes sense for him and it's worth it financially. And I hope that is the case. And
yes,
and it will be good for the sport and people in it. So yeah, let's hope that it's a great match between those two, and let's hope
yes,
that the main event is great and the hammer or the title is finally coming back to North America
that
and
would
your
be
match.
nice, man.
Yeah, I do hope that
That
your
would be
match
nice.
is gonna be. I think it's gonna
I
be.
just wanted to be a war. I want it to be a war,
It's gonna be a
one way
war.
or
I
the
think
other.
that has the most chance
I'd
of being a
rather it
war.
just be a really good match.
Yeah.
Krasny could win, I could win. I'll sleep okay at night. I just want it to be a good war.
Yeah, and that's why we tune in, right? We don't want to watch
Yeah,
a match that just lopsided, and
yeah,
how we know what's going to happen. And that's why, again, we need to tune in next Saturday. And I'll leave a link in the description so you guys can check it out. Again, thanks, Paul, for coming on
my
again.
pleasure, man.
And
You keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate you, man. And guys, if you listen this long, please subscribe, like, share. Show this guy some love, man.
yeah, yeah, thank you, Paul. Again, good luck again. We'll be
Thank you.
looking rooted for the West, and I hope you have a great match and you win.
Yes, sir.
All
We'll
right,
see
see
you.
you, Paul.
Cannot finish it. He goes for the press. Butler maybe was thinking that. There's the hit, bang! So close, so close, so yes.